Muchas gracias a todos. Es un privilegio tener aquí It is a great privilege having you here. It's not the first time that you are going to see student work. You have done it in the past, and I think it's a very, singular format for the school. That later on in an hour they are going to listen to you in the lecture hall, but now you are going to listen to them. And here, you know what some of the brightest architects of the new prop have to say, for you to get a feeling, you know, of what this institution and the young architects are thinking. So with no more presentation, Josean is going to conduct this session, and they are going to have very short 5-minute presentations from them, and then you and of course anyone who wants to intervene will do so. So again, Norman, thank you very much on behalf of this group and on behalf of the school for sharing this with us, this valuable time.
It's my pleasure.
No, but I know it's a great privilege, and we want to express our gratitude.
Thank you for coming. We are ordered 5 projects from far away to the center of Madrid. 5 very good projects. Graphically, they have been working this week trying to reduce the amount of information because they are very talented and young and they want to show everything. So we had to cut some slides from 100 to 30, 40, but some of them are like a part of a sequence of a storyboard, and they have prepared a English presentation. We'll have 6 minutes per person, then we could talk freely, but at 10, 12 minutes, we should pass to the next one. So we're going to start with Andrés de Leito and a project, he will explain us. Sara, please, can you put down the lights?
Good morning, it's my pleasure to be here today, and I'm going to start my project, my final project. We are in England, in a small city called Presentan, where Peter and Alison Smithson built their first building, the Smithson High School. During their career, they defined the interesting concept of the math buildings. In their own words, a structure whose order is based on interconnections, and the possibility of growing, decreasing, and changing. But these patterns works only in one level, so how could we translate this concept, taking the advantage of the 3 dimensions of the space? The most important thing is relations, and it is the system itself which determines the rules of the game. The interconnections are multiplied, and the speed of mobility improved. The project is a research about this typology, a spatial math building. Its base, it's a unique piece capable of generating the whole system, and which encloses all growing possibilities. As in a system, it is necessary to define the rules that allow its development. So I studied and learned about the aggregations, about geometry and patterns and superpositions. I learned about light and shadows, about dimensions and proportions, about the connections between 2 consecutive spaces, slopes, and accessibility for anyone, the possible scales, and the occupation areas, which are adaptable for any kind of program. But all these aspects merge in the final spatial system. But of course, it has to be something we can build. The structure and the entire materialization is made of empty steel walls. Each point is tied in the 3 dimensions, in at least 3 different directions, making the set completely stable. The section of the beams is adaptable to any distance and charges, maintaining the proportions because of the geometry. The building process is designed to guarantee the stability along every phase of the construction. And we can use the steel, the material, as a transmitter and emitter of thermal energy by heated water and sun. So we can reducing the number of machines, installations, and the energy resources needed. And going back to Constantin, the project is located in the same plot as the Smith High School of Allison and Peter Smithson. It maintains the open space in front of the school, while creating a new shape in the landscape. The university campus is based on constant exchanges of information, and there are many ways of communicating it, very linked to arts and architecture. So we have, for example, paintings, photographs, musical pieces, and of course we have plans, models, or even a presentation. But how is this space lived? Very simple. It is about translating those exchanges of information to the space it occupies. So, for example, according to the system itself, there are many ways to move around this space. So you can do it linearly, and you will get a linear information. Then you will be in a conference or in a professor's lesson or reading a book in a library. Also, there are spaces which are many possible directions, and they serve as a singular points of reference within the set. So there, you will be in a discussion, in a workshop with colleagues, or in a media library, receiving information from many ways. But you're free. You're free to go around in any direction. So the type of information that you get, it's up to you. You are the one who connects those different programs and spaces according to your own interests. The environment is green, infinite, that extends up the hills, and the versatility of the system allows meeting the many requirements of the program at the same time that maintains the horizontality of the surroundings, so it accompanies the silhouette of the hills. It respects the height and the scale of the Smithson's school and becoming a part of the landscape. Thank you very much.
Feel very self-conscious seeing something for a few minutes and then responding to it. I think it's fantastic, really, hugely impressive. I love the way that it's a new way of looking at movement, and the movement really generating the spaces and the whole three-dimensionality of that. If I had the opportunity perhaps for more intimate exchange one-to-one, I comment that I enjoy very much the way that the staircases and the kind of auditoria share a similar geometry. I'd love to know how a ramp system, for example, might interweave into that, so that in parallel you address the whole disability thing without use of elevators, without use of lifts. But I thought the quality of the presentation, what you have no way of knowing, is that the very first building that I identify with as building a building was a small factory, electronics factory in Swindon, at the time that I was a partner in Team 4. And if you look at the water tower on its columns, it's influenced by the Smithson's Hunstanton School. So I know that school, I know the reference points, and fantastic. I loved everything about it, the presentation, the consistency, and the way in which you got into how it's actually built. So for me, it was wonderfully integrated. Thank you.
This is the master.
then probably.
So, Juan Antonio, please.
Good morning. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and to the outgoing classroom for the whole course. My name is Juan Silvestre Bengoa, and Maria Jose Ranguren has been my tutor. I want to introduce to you my project, an Air Military Campus. The statement proposes us to reflect on educational programs. I'm pointing out 4 possible locations in England. At this point, it was not clear for me what I was going to do, but I had in mind the geopolitical framework in which Great Britain stood after Brexit. Drawing one of the locations, I noticed that a few miles from Heathrow Park, there was an old aerodrome. Here, I found the opportunity for the project. Joining it with my initial interest and realizing that this location was a military base during World War II, I decided to design around the current military needs of England, linked with the proposed academical program. The aerodrome, in its current state, is organized around three airstrips. In the western edge, we find 8 hangars of metallic structure, distributed in a row, and 2 entrances to some old bunkers. These pre-existing extractors are completed with another type of hangar, located along the access road. The dimension of the airstrips gives a character to the landscape where we are located, being especially attractive the simultaneous existence of 2 so different types of construction, the hangar and the bunkers that generate a strong contrast. I made the decision to limit my intervention in the West precisely because of the coexistence of these 2 typologies. One of the naves cannot be used for its state of ruin, and that's why I decided to do without it. In the first hangar, located in the west, a camping area is established, followed by a zone for training and export use. Close to the railways, there are the drone training and control tower. In front of it, a mechanical workshop hangar. Looking to its left, a hangar for teaching use. In the footprint of the hangar in Ruiz, a meeting area, and to its left, a hangar for logistics and administration. Underground, the 2 entrances of the pre-existing bunkers are connected, and a rack and a data storage rooms are established. In addition, 4 new entrances are created in the hangars with greater influx of people. There is a double strategy when addressing the materialization of the project. The first of them is a minor order system that connects to the porticos of the persistent hangars, a system of catalog scaffolding that provides flexibility and a possible reorganization in time, adapting to the changing necessities of a military program. The second strategy focuses on the resolution of the underground bunkers by very thick concrete bolts, necessary as a shelter in case of emergency. Each one of these elements is constructively defined. The system, which could seem repetitive, allows the communication between programs. The combination of the pre-existing hangars together with the new system generates an attractive composition. The needs of the programs are diverse. We need large space for military training, and we also need more compact spaces for other uses. The constructed system allows communication in some cases, and in others can be inhabited, so it generates a variable section. Punctual access to the bunkers give the complexity to the section. We will focus now on 8 of the 8 interventions. In the drone training area, I introduced a self-constructed system consistent on tensors and micro-perforated meshes. In the teaching area, some prefabricated wood volumes are introduced, adapting to the system of scaffolding. They provide a central gallery. In the camp hangar, the residential use is simplified to bunk beds due to its military character. Up to this point, all the spans saved by the scaffolds were previously known because they were cataloged. Here, the structural challenge appears. I decided to design a large common space. I needed to save a 25 meters span using the same scaffolding system. I studied how and where the system had to be reinforced, providing a solution that could host a place for events and conferences. Finally, the underground construction. The two pre-existing bunker entrances are connected, and the structure now protects a rack and a data storage room. Another 4 new accesses are also strategically located. The two pre-existing accesses are hiding among the vegetation, recovering the purpose for which they have been designed. The other 4 are located in areas where the largest number of people are concentrated, achieving a rapid and agile response for shelter in case of emergency. An architectural project that started from personal interest and that is able to detect the appropriate place to carry those interests out, and together with the technique manages to materialize an idea. Thank you very much.
I don't think I need a microphone in there.
Well, it's for the...
Really? Oh, okay. All right.
There's not for the audience stuff.
As you know, I have a love of aviation, and I think military airfields, especially abandoned airfields, have an extraordinary kind of impregnation and kind of layers of history. So I enjoy very much the way in which you engage with the heritage aspects of a base to transform that into a new kind of military education complex, which is very much against fashion. But I think it's an inspiring synergy of the old and the new, and how you've been inspired in terms of the new structures by the kind of anonymous architecture of hangars and the reuse of bunkers. I think it's a super scheme, so congratulations. Really enjoyed it.
We're gonna move to the center of London. We're gonna see 2 exercises in a row. Sonia and Ricardo.
Good morning. My name is Sonia Prieto, and it's a pleasure to be here. My project is in London, Smithfield Market. In the middle of the city of London, Smithfield Market is an opportunity to convert the university in a way to make city. We get us used to high infrastructures deep underground, making a disconnected, dark and restricted urban world. This project proposed the opposite solution, taking advantage of this place designed the campus as an infrastructure in London, allowing to connect it to the city and revealing underground architecture. The project starts with the location of Barbican and Paddington Station, both open cast and so close to the market that the railways cross its basement. Beams from the North Street are eliminated, disclosing big retaining walls, brick arcades, past century barrel vaults, and the punctual and rhythmic trains that create new public space at the university, the street campus. The big street operation will be articulated by some access to connect the capital with the new level. 8 meters lower, with existing structure and a small urban intervention. The Barbican station is the first access, using the out-operation platforms, and with a new footbridge to cross to the pedestrian way. Near to the building, the old towers that have been released will be used to create other two access through two walkways. In the other side, a passage connects the main street with the backyards that will be transformed into a big point with pedestrian access to the new street. Finally, Farringdon Station has another access. From this new street, you can access to the cafeteria in the old disco basement and the university that transformed the old market by some structure operation. The basement level is the main entrance. All spaces are now connected. This is the old situation, and this is the project, connecting trains, street, and indoor space. The public uses is there, and they connect with the classroom and student housing. The whole operation was thought as an infrastructure, from the access to the facilities, considering technical and urban aspects, in a similar way to other near projects, like Barbican Center or Millennium Bridge with the Tate model, all assembled and built the City of London. Thank you very much.
We have another project in the same plot.
Do you want me to wait till?
Yeah.
My project is also in the Smithfield Market, and it's a quite different project. And the second one. My name is Ricardo Fernández. I'm also in the Smithfield Market. I'm going to introduce you Smithfield Abbey Campus. The ring, the abbey, and the monumental character shown in some of my drawings were three basic concepts applied to my project. They came to my mind after the visit to London and surroundings. They constantly provoked the quest for the massive and sincere, relying on brick as the predominant material. Smithfield Abbey Campus is defined as a constant quest of a personal experience through an image that was determined by a sequence of spaces traveled, an image determined by the contrast between the traditional and the contemporary, that has to do with condition and evolution, with the space and ultimately with time, a time that is defined by the memory of the lived and the experience of the past. A project that starts with experience, reaffirming the idea of projecting from the library, of the idea that we have in our head. Two memories in my head: a visit to the Roman Art Museum last year, designed by Raphael Monnier. Another big reference about the museum, the Kingdom Museum in Foursquare, when I was in Chicago in 2014, where I took the idea of the beam of the bolt working as a beam. At the end is a project located in London, that you probably know better than me, but it's a personal London, a London that is defined by a path. The path that I took the first day during my trip. A path full of contrasts that define the situation of a project, starting in Josean house, elaborate, at the same time confusing, going through the piece of the Smithfield Market and the old Victorian facade, brick and stone. The Barbican Centre as an example of rural use. At different pieces like San Bartolomeo Abbey, St. Paul's, the Bank of England, and finally, getting the end at the space of Tate Modern. At the end, the Smithfield campus is framed in an area defined by the Norman architecture of San Bartolomeo the Great and San Bartolomeo the Less, the Barbican Centre, St. Paul's, and Bank of England, a piece that calls my attention, a piece that I drawn and analyzed. And I understood as a sequence of spaces, not only in floor plan but also in section. A piece that was demolished in the 20s by real estate pressures, but was already represented in a state of ruin by the artist Josean. A ruin that in England, without a past of ancient splendor like Rome and Greece, was used as an image, with literary content, and was incorporated to the poetics of the Pinterest. The ruin suggests the passage of the time and the nostalgia of the past. Thus, Smithfield starts with the ruin and the reminiscence. The ruin of an ancient place that diverted the course of a river that flowed through a valley sloping toward the west. The ruin of the old Victorian facade of the Smithfield Market. The ruin of the San Bartolomeo the Great and San Bartolomeo the Less. The ruin of a medieval square that became an entrance last years, and my project transformed into the space for access to the most public program into the basement. The ruin of one of the most important long Spanish structures that works as a piece of transition between the old Victorian facade and the Theatre Museum of London. Definitely it's a project of walls and vaults. True walls where structure and texture merge with the same purpose, the monumental character of the abbey. Walls that dialogue with the system archways of the basement, a basement abandoned by the old train tracks. Brick walls that are supported with abutments, considering them an advantage and not a shortcoming. Abutments that are not hidden and you can feel the monumental character inside. This material sincerity also works in the vaults that are understood as beams, and that make the reference to the concept investigated by Eduardo Torroja about reinforced concrete, and more developed by Eladio Di Este with the big long span reinforced brick structures. At the end, serve a space covered by cylindrical vaults of reinforced brick, a technique from 1813 by Marquis and Val Brunel the engineer. Brick arches, concrete lintels, and narrow paths define the service space, a place where we will enjoy its wall condition, defied of the material sincerity. A system that is faithful to material, double and triple heights, colonize the old Smithfield medieval square to become classrooms, courtyards, and workrooms. A sequence of spaces of a campus separated to the City of London by the limit of the old Victorian facade. Abutment, wall, and vault play a fundamental role. The vertical structure is composed by two seats of brick, 1 foot each one, with an air camera of 25 centimeters inside, allowing installation in between them. And a horizontal system of bolts working as a beam, with reinforced slabs and concrete beams. The buttresses are placed strategically perpendicular to the walls, allowing to bracket the vertical structure and drawing virtue to its structural necessity. I developed a total of 15 walls that run the floor plan of the old Smithfield campus, the old Smithfield Market. The abutment is defined in all its parts. An upper part where the supports are minimal, since the vault don't need supports, which allows drilling and plating with the bonding bricks. A reinforced concrete beam is embedded in its interior. A beam that does not necessarily reach the end of the wall allows the train to be incorporated inside the abutment. The lower part corresponds to the basement, a more opaque basement, where the brick bonding plays again a new role, an important role, defining the different spaces. At the end, I define a campus as a sequence of spaces between walls, the spaces that respond to the structural system of the facade. The east-west axis maintains the original visual of the market and generates a diagonal visual fade. Meanwhile, the north-south axis, released from the structure, generates a direct visual caused by the overlapping of vertical glass planes. A floor plan which, as well as the model, is a reminiscence to the initial image of the Bank of England. Please remember of the collage and the different possibilities in which one of the multiple solutions of the system is drawn. The basement plan is similarly configured to house the most public spaces near to the central axis. At the end, Smithfield Abbey campus is a reminiscence to the archive and a view to the future, with the technique and the construction, and a journey to the origin and an exploration to the future. Thank you very much.
I'm hugely impressed by the sophistication of the references that go throughout all these schemes, whether it's starting with Hans Stanton, the kind of nostalgia and heritage of an old airfield, Abbeys, Sir John Soane. The last two, I think, interestingly, although they're very, very different, they have this common theme of infrastructure and space and kind of connecting into the fabric of a city, which I think is absolutely fascinating, very relevant, and beautifully done. So again, I think it's the extraordinary variety of projects, and I'm fascinated that London and the United Kingdom provide this kind of source of inspiration. We're very fortunate beneficiaries as a practice because, as you know, a huge proportion of Spanish architects, graduates, and so on. So, wonderful. Thank you.
We're moving to the last one, to Madrid, the more surreal and dark project by Julio.
Yeah, I want to express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity. Madrid has a net of underground existing galleries belonging to the medieval infrastructure of water supply. The project started with an intense research about all these different layers growing the underground of Madrid. I decided to set up a plan of recovery of these existing galleries that lost landscape, in order to recover and turn them into public space. So, operating over an existing galleries, I decided to set up 5 new axes, recovering part of the spaces and proposing new connections. So this is the main strategy of the plan, as you can see here, relating different parts of the city, of the downtown Madrid, and different spaces that talks about the region of the city. I'm going to talk about 3 of those axes, and each axis has its own typology and its own spatial and structural idea. The first axis will be developed in an abandoned building owned by the ministry, and it's a load-bearing wall building, and I decided to change the structure of those buildings and to turn them using an index of arcs. I use those arcs as a kind of diaphragm to transform the main plan and to connect the building with the existing galleries. At the same time, it's important to talk about the urban space because it's a really urban project, so it's important to talk about the character, and also I developed these images that talks about the behavior of the atmosphere in a sort of Goya style. The second axis will be developed in a plaza in the square in the downtown of Madrid, also surrounded by these existing antique galleries. The main strategy here is to use folded retaining walls for 2 reasons. The first one is to connect the proposed open space with the existing galleries and also to contain the land. Again, I thought also about the tiling plan and how to reach an interesting character for this space. And also to think about the materiality, the construction of all these retaining walls using brick pieces. The third axis, I'm going to talk about is the access in Cuesta de la Vega, an antique space of runoff waters near the Almudena and the palace. And again, it's a space surrounded by all these existing spaces, and I decided to research about the existing geometries, the existing sets of the vaults, and I decided to use them to set the main section of this intervention. Again, it's a section that works in two ways. The first way is retaining the wall, the loads of the lamp, and also making a new connection with existing galleries and creating a new open space that is a public space. It's a kind of palimpsest where the new mix with the old. Well, in the other hand, I truly believe that construction belongs to the epoch. So, as my project is talking about an ancient epoch, I decided to go to Rome to research about ancient techniques and to use these geometries in a new modern way, using technology to develop the final shape, the final thickness of the whole project, and the bolts, and the range of concrete inside the bolts. The same way, I think about the drawing of the elevations, the details of the big pieces and clay pieces, and the character of all those constructive details. I also developed this kind of anatomy drawings that talks about the way it is constructed, and again about the urban condition of all these spaces, how to develop the tiny plan and the character of all those spaces. It's important to talk about not only about the technique, but about the technology. I refer to how to deal with the nets of electricity, illuminations, water supply, and how to mix it, to introduce, to mix with the background of the existing project. Finally, I'm going to show a video that talks again about the behavior, the atmosphere of all those spaces.
Amazing. A great way to end, back in Madrid. Extraordinary richness of imagery, from the pictorial to the kind of skeletal, and I enjoyed immensely the way that you link the research into the historical Madrid and Rome, and how that finally kind of meshed with the city. Kind of extraordinary sort of fantasy world. So well done. Really great way to end the group. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just finally, I'm hugely impressed by each one, which was special and personal in its own right. and just the broad spectrum of all of them together. I mean, wealth of material. You must have had agonies deciding what to leave out, what to bring in, and how to kind of balance it in the short time available. So I'm hugely impressed. I really enjoy coming back to this school. It's the building is really so interesting, and the work is fascinating. And so something that was kind of created in the 30s for, was it 300 students, and now there are 5,000. It's amazing, the ability of the building to adapt, and the technologies. I mean, just at the point where I was thinking no sketches, then sketches appeared, and just at the point where I was thinking not using film appeared. And just at the point where I was thinking and no colour, then colour appeared. So you've answered all the queries, all the questions, and well done. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
So Castellano, thank you very much, Mr. Foster. We are now going to enjoy a lecture and a conversation with Fernández-Galiano. We will remind you about the exhibition in Fundación Telefónica.
Exactly. Simply to announce what is going to happen now. Again, thank you, Norman, for being at the school once more for the first time, and it's always a privilege to have you here, and for the students to listen to you and to be able to show the work to you. And now, as you know, in the main lecture hall, we'll have a session with two parts. In the first part, Norman will make a presentation about cities, and in the second part, we'll have a dialogue about the exhibition currently in Fundación Telefónica in Gran Via, which was opened yesterday, and to which we are all invited to go. So again, to express the gratitude to the school and of all of us for your generosity and your insights. Thank you.